Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and this is how to make money with your hobby. In this video we're going to talk about the equipment. I think this is one of the very first videos that we're going to be doing for this series. And I wanted to start with something very basic as the equipment. Now before I show you what we use, I want you to realize that you can really use whatever you want. It really depends on what you are creating. For example, a battle report doesn't require as good a camera as a painting tutorial. A painting tutorial requires better high definition in order for you to be able to see the detail of what you're painting. Also, the equipment is not as important as how you use it. For example, you can have a crappy point and shoot camera, but if you have proper lighting, you can take incredibly good pictures with it. Whereas you could have a very expensive camera, and if you don't have proper lighting, you will not be able to take better pictures with it. So part of it is learning how to use your equipment properly, which we will cover in other videos. I want to make videos on things such as white balance, on lighting, and other things like that. So we're going to cover all the technical details, as well as some of the more philosophical discussions on the quality of your videos as well. So we're going to focus specifically on equipment in this video. So I have all sorts of equipment lined up here, and I'm also probably going to take you for a walk around our office, show you some of the different things that we have. I want to show you this first. See this gigantic clunky thing? This was the awesome camcorder that we started with 4 years ago. Now ironically, when I bought this, it was $800. It's not an HD camcorder, it's just a standard definition 2.3 megapixel still picture recording. And it's a tape. Like it actually has a tape in there. They don't really make those anymore, and you wouldn't really want them to anyway. The only advantage that this one had was because it was Firewire, you could actually do live shows with it as well really easily, whereas all the newer cameras are not built to do live shows, so you need like webcams if you want to do live shows, which we'll talk about. So anyway, so this is what we started with. It was a really expensive camera at the time. I had a marketing business at the time, so I was making videos for that, and so I could afford to buy something like this. But luckily, the price of cameras has come down a lot. The current model that we use is this. I've got a little tripod thing on the bottom I'm going to take off. This is a Canon Vixia HFR10. They don't, this is outdated now. You're not going to want to buy this one particularly, because you won't be able to find the spare batteries and parts for it. But there's similar models. Canon Vixia, that's V-I-X-I-A, is a good line. You can get an HD camcorder for about $300. Now you might be like, oh, $300? And yes, it is expensive. There are alternatives, but if you're going to do painting or terrain tutorials where you're going to be close up to your miniature, you do need a half-decent HD camera. And so this is probably one of your single largest expenses that you will have if you want to be able to make videos, is your camcorder. So save up and buy one, borrow one from a friend or family member, whatever you do need a half-decent camera. Now luckily half-decent cameras no longer cost $1,000. Now having said that, if we look at, I want to compare 3 different channels that all get a lot of views on YouTube, and that is Blue Table Painting, Beasts of War, and MiniWarGaming, us. The reason I like these 3 is because we're all so different from each other in how we do our business. You have Beasts of War, who has incredibly expensive equipment and really high production value, and they get a lot of views because of their polish and because of the quality of the content as well. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Sean from Blue Table Painting, who goes around with his little point and shoot camera, because point and shoot cameras can do video, and he also gets lots of views with not as good a camera, or as you could say, a crappy camera, that's going around with his point and shoot saying, hey, look at what we're painting. And the reason for that is, well, for one thing, he uses it to take still shots, and then he puts the still shots into his videos as well, which we'll talk about in another video, how you can actually get away with not even having a video camera and still be able to make videos. But he takes still shots to make up for the blurriness or the motion blur of the point shoot, but also because of the quality of content. So you're going to find that more of the time, the content is going to supersede the equipment. Okay, so how good the content is more important drastically than your equipment. So before you start worrying about the fact that you don't have all this expensive equipment, realize that the content is more important than the equipment. So there's ways to work around it. Like I said, Sean from Blue Table Painting just uses his point and shoot, but he takes good pictures with it. He knows how to take good pictures with that point and shoot. And he's just using a little point and shoot to take all those pictures, and you can see that he has really high quality pictures. It's because he's learned how to do proper lighting and white balance, and those two things are the most important for having really good pictures. But if you can afford it, get a start or an entry-level HD camera. You could go more expensive than this if you want to, but why bother? If you're trying to make money, you don't want to spend all this money. If you already have one, then that's awesome. There's also the more compact cameras. This is a Kodak something or other, Z18, or you can get a flip video. These are fine for battle reports or if you're doing vlogs or whatever, because they're not the highest quality. They do HD. They all do HD now, and any new ones that you buy. When I was doing my walk and talks, I was using an old flip video, and it was perfect because it was nice and lightweight, so I could just walk around and talk to the camera, and it was great. And so you could use one of these. This is what Joe uses for his battle reports. Not this one particularly, but he uses a flip video or something like that. So whenever you see a Joe on the road, you can see that he focuses more on the content than on the presentation of the content, and yet people love it. And the reason they love it is because Joe is funny. He's got a really good personality for videos, and people just really like him. As Dave says, he has the X factor, and the X factor is something that is just hard to explain, but makes him successful. As for taking pictures, we have a fancy Canon Rebel XS. This is a few years old now, but you can buy these for about $500 or $600. You don't need this. You really don't need it. Most people in our household will have a point and shoot camera, and those point and shoot cameras can take very good pictures if you learn how to use them, which we will talk about in another video. But we happen to have this because I was into photography a few years back, and so I had bought a Canon Rebel because it's a good entry-level SLR. So SLR is a single lens reflex, and that's where you have these lenses that you can take off and replace with like a telescopic or a macro lens. But these are more expensive, so you don't need that. So what do you need for equipment? Well, bare minimum, you need a point and shoot camera that can do video and can take pictures. Obviously, you can take pictures if it's a point and shoot camera. A next step up would be buy one of these. You can get a flip video usually for around $100 to $150. Or you can go the next step up and you can buy an entry-level HD camera or camcorder for about $300. Now, the big suggestion I have if you're going to go to this level is make sure it has a microphone input. So we have on the back a place for a microphone. And this isn't so important right away because you're not going to want to buy a better microphone. But in the future, you might want to increase or improve your audio quality. Well, you can't improve the audio quality of an HD camera unless it has a microphone input. And so we have some very expensive wireless mics that we use that we then plug into here. But you don't need to use that. You really don't. In fact, my battle reports, the BeatMat bat reps, I use that mic at the beginning and the end, but I don't even really need to because I just record the voiceovers afterwards. So the wireless mics that we have are Sennheisers. So these are just, I had to get these online. I think it was like $500 for the wireless mic, the receiver, and the transmitter. But you don't need that. You really don't need that. But if you want to put some extra money into it, then that's something you can get. Otherwise, for doing all your voiceovers and everything, if you end up doing voiceovers, just buy one of these. It's a USB headset mic. See, USB. Most people have one of these anyways, especially if you're into computer gaming. You buy one of these for $50 or $60 or less, but I like to get the better ones that have nice cushioning and good quality microphone, and you can mute the mic by clicking here, or you can change the volume. This is good. This is what I use. This is what I use for my voiceovers. This $50 mic, when you watch a BeatMat bat rep and you hear me doing the voiceover, casting the game, this is what I'm using. So really, that's all you need. Now, it might seem a little overwhelming. Look at all this equipment, but like I said, start with what you can afford. In the end, it's the quality of the content over the production value. That is more important. And Sean from Blue Table Painting has proven that you can make good videos without having a very expensive camera. And Beasts of War have proven that if you have the production value, then that's good as well. And we're in the middle. We have this is a $300 camera. It's not a $5,000 camera or whatever the Beasts of War camera costs, but it's also not a little point and shoot like Blue Table Painting does. And we focus on And we use this camera for our painting tutorials as well as our battle reports. We have 2 of these, obviously. The one that's recording right now is this camera. So, what other equipment do we have? Oh, let me just grab this. We also have this for our live shows. Now, if you're not planning on doing live shows, then ignore this portion. This is a webcam. It's a Microsoft LifeCam, I think that's what it's called. Microsoft LifeCam. So, you know, depending on when you watch this video, if you're watching this video a year later from when I posted it, then all this equipment will be outdated. But it doesn't matter. The same idea will be there. In fact, you might actually have an advantage if you're watching this a year later, because you might be able to get an entry-level HD camera with a microphone input for $100. Who knows? Who knows where the market's going? An entry-level HD camera 2 years ago was $1,000. Now, $300. So obviously things get cheaper. So we use the Microsoft LifeCam. It's a USB webcam. It's a USB 2, so it is able to do HD, and we use that for our live shows. Very straightforward. If you want to do live shows, don't go through all the effort. I went through a lot of effort of figuring out equipment, and in the end, it was just a USB webcam. That's what we do it with. It's not the highest quality. Like, this camera does way better quality than this little thing. Obviously, it's better. This was $70, and this camera was $300, so it better be better. But this camera, you require like a capture card and the proper software in order to even be able to use it for streaming, and you need a really good computer too. Which brings me to the software. As for your computer, you don't need a really good computer to do this. The better your computer, the faster it'll render videos. Editing videos, you can use a crappy computer for. Like our computers in the office, we just bought a couple new computers that are like $1,500, really good graphics cards, 16 gigs of RAM, Windows 7, quad core, 3.5 gigahertz or something like that CPU, and it runs beautifully, our software, and it helps render a lot faster. But before that, we have these 4-year-old computers that we've been doing all of our editing and rendering up until just this past month of September 2011. So everything you've seen from us before that was done on old crappy PCs without good video cards, with like 2 gigs of memory, running on Windows XP with, you know, I think they're dual core CPUs. Now mind you, when I did a 15-minute HD video, it would take it about 4 hours to render, whereas on the new computer it only takes half an hour. But in the end, you're not going to be doing as many videos as us, so you don't need to have that rendering time come down to it. Now we're rendering like several videos a day, so we need the rendering time to be good. Anyways, the software we use is Vegas Movie Studio Platinum. So Platinum because the Platinum one does HD, whereas the regular one doesn't. Now, when you're watching this video a year from now, I don't know if this will, what version will be out. This is version 11, and it's great. It's all you need. If you can't afford it, this is $130. If you can't afford that, Windows Movie Maker will get you started. I think Sean from Blue Table Painting, all of his videos are edited with Windows Movie Maker, from what I could tell. And he has 20,000 subscribers on YouTube as I make this video. I can't remember. He has a lot, and he gets thousands of views on each of his videos, and he puts up a lot of videos. And the reason he can put up a lot of videos is because he literally takes the video, probably edits it for 10 minutes, and then he's done. And it's the content that makes him popular. And also his personality. He's got a funny, quirky personality that people tend to really like. But if you want to take it a step up, I do recommend Vegas Movie Studio. If you're on a Mac, then you have iMovie already on your Mac, and if you want to take it a step further than that, I don't remember, but you don't have to go for the expensive stuff like Adobe Premiere or all those, you know, After Effects and all these other fancy things. You're making wargaming videos. You're not making even computer game videos. You don't need that. You're not making fancy special effects videos and all of that. Like, if you want to do that, that's fine, but most likely wasting your time. So this is what we use. Remember, this is me telling you what we use. It's not necessarily me telling you what you have to use. Windows Movie Maker or iMovie will do the trick. You'll be limited. You only have a certain number of video and audio tracks, whereas this has a few more. But if you're just doing something simple, then Windows Movie Maker will get you there. That's actually what we started with. We started with Windows Movie Maker for the first year, I think. And then we bought Pinnacle, and we used that for about a year. And then we outgrew it because it just was too buggy and it didn't work very well. And we had a recommendation for Vegas Movie Studio, and we bought it, and we've loved it ever since. And it works great. So that's what we recommend if you're going to purchase some software, because it's really not that expensive. Now, mind you, when you add these things up, I do realize a $300 camera and $130 software, that's $430. It'll take you a while to make that money back, because we're not talking about making thousands of dollars a month. We're talking about making, if you're doing really well, $50 to $100 a month, and if you get super popular, a few $100s a month on doing videos. But obviously, if you're going to invest in stuff like this, you're going to have to do it more because you just want to make really good videos. If you're just looking to get bare minimum into it, then a point and shoot camera will do fine, which you probably already have, and Windows Movie Maker is more than enough. As for, should we talk about music now? Yeah, let's talk about music now. As for adding music to your videos, just use royalty-free music. And the place that we recommend is Incompetech, incompetech.com. And that's music by Kevin MacLeod. Probably 80% of our videos use that music, and he puts out he has a ton of music, and it's all completely free to use, even commercially. All you have to do is attribute him. In other words, you have to put somewhere music by Kevin MacLeod. We recommend putting it in the video itself in the credits, but in the bare minimum, you have to put it in the video description underneath, well, on YouTube or wherever you happen to post a video. But put it in the video credits, because the guy has worked really hard to make these songs, so you might as well give him the credit. Okay, well that's it for equipment. Maybe in another video we'll talk about light boxes and all of that, maybe even a lighting video. But that gives you a basic rundown on the equipment that we use. Now don't let it discourage you. If you feel discouraged, remember, point and shoot, Windows Movie Maker. You're on your way. And most likely you have both of those already. So stay tuned for more videos on how to make money with your hobby. Happy wargaming.